Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. That over there is at Ant Rivera 86. I am at Pucking Thoughts Adam Bernard. Noticeably absent today. As I said in the tweet when the show went live, he picked mediocre food over us today, and that's fine. Hasn't missed one yet. But nonetheless, we are at Fuzzy Chris 91. New Slapshot podcast just came out, I believe, on Tuesday this week. So go check that out. And I'm sure he'll have something to say later on. But Ant, how we doing today?
I'm doing great. I hope he doesn't pick boneless wings tonight. That's the one thing I'm worried about. If he's going to this somewhat fancy restaurant that he talks about, that he doesn't pick, boneless wings or anything like that. But do you know that, we've been doing this show for the last couple of years, and Chris has always been a part of the show since the beginning. But the last time you and I did a show together, we were kind of, trying to bring this whole thing together. We were making demos, and look at how far we've come since then.
It's been, what was that, summer of 2023, for early fall, something like that.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, here we are. We've built up a lovely following of people here that are including people like Marek, who's pretty much a loyal guy here every week. Love Marek. MBV checking in, yo, and Glenn P. Good morning, wherever in his part of the world. It's the morning. For me, it's about an hour and a half after lunch, where I'm at right now on the West Coast. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to focus on some of the fast starts for some of these guys that, some are names you'd expect. Maybe some are a little below the radar, and not to say whether they can sustain a pace or not. Like, listen, Chris Kreider's on pace for 109 goals. Obviously, he's not going to stay on that pace. But is he at Anaheim in a situation now where, they have some players that we're not going to talk about Kreider. We got two other ones, though. We'll also talk about Steven Stamkos, who's off to a slow start again. Maybe Tampa knew what they were doing by not re-signing him. And, of course, Ant and I will run the board for 11 games tonight in the NHL. And if you like totals, if you like to play totals, well, somebody here has got us prepared with a bunch of them. I got a couple as well. But
what was the name you gave me in the chat?
It's Totals with Tony Rivers. We'll
I like it.
That. Totals with Tony Rivers. Maybe we'll have to have a special intro for that. Glenn P. confirming Thailand. So, yes, like definitely the morning over there. We're international, baby. We have Australia. We're good, like the Southeast Asia and like Australia area. Like we've got a little bit of a foothold there. So good stuff there. And State of Survival, also another loyal guy. What's up, boys? Checking in. Always good to have everybody here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hockey, we mostly cover everything out of the United States and the NHL and Canada. But hockey's a global sport, and it's going to get even bigger and better once we get to the Olympics as well. We saw how great the four nations were. We got the Olympics coming up. So this global, I don't want to say phenomenon, but this global takeover of hockey is at hand.
Now, two quick notes to get to before we get to Fantasy Focus and then run the board here. You mentioned the Olympics. Report came out earlier this week that the facility may not be the ice surface may not be fully tested before things are going to be, and with any Olympic facility construction, they're always really cutting it close on the 11th hour, with getting things done. That story happens with every Olympics. But yeah, and Gary Bettman already said, like, hey, like, I'm not running this event. I have nothing to do with this event besides being, along with the NHLPA, obviously want to stay abreast of what's going on. But yeah, that's not a good sign. And if a McDavid or anybody that is a pivotal player to their team in a playoff hunt goes down because of shoddy ice, that is not going to be a good look.
Yeah, and USA is already down 2 Kachucks.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew and Brady should both be back by then, but you never know. And then the other bit of news, and we're not going to dive too deep into this because that's its own wormhole in itself. The Vegas Golden Knights and Carter Hart, they're going to give him a tryout, professional tryout, which could turn into a contract. He wouldn't be eligible to play till after December 1st. There's obviously a giant conversation attached to that. We're not going to do that today because who knows what Vegas is going to look like by then. Who knows how the tryout goes and all that stuff. But yeah, that's a conversation not only to have for another day, but that is a big story today with Carter Hart coming back into the NHL after everything that's gone on legally with him. 4 other players with the Vegas Golden Knights. See how it goes with the tryout. But hey, we're here to talk about some other things today. We're talking about Fantasy Focus today. It'll be fast starts. And Ant had 2 names he brought to the table that one of them I had looked at, and I'm glad he had it because then it's like, all right, let's definitely do that one. And another one, which was a little outside the box because I like it because we're going to talk some Anaheim Ducks. But first up, Mr. Shane Pinto. And this was one of the guys you wanted to discuss out of the gate right now. Shane Pinto What has he got? 1 goal and 5 assists. Or excuse me, I have it jotted down here. Stand by. What's his totals right now?
Shane,
Assists in 4 games. There it is.
I should know too because I have him, but I didn't even bring it up. But when I had him in the stats here, let me bring up the stats right now.
So yeah, 1 goal
unprepared.
and 5.
That's how it is. He's got more.
He's got 1 goal.
No. He's got 5 goals this month. 1 assist.
I switched. I put it back.
On 12 shots on goal. Yeah. 27 face-off wins. So I'll take that. If you're trying to get him in our league, you can't because I got him. And that's why I wanted to bring him into the picture. Obviously, we just mentioned Brady Tkachuk also being out. So he's going to be a big focus of this team along with Tim Stützle. And I think Drake Batherson's back as well. So we'll see how they I mean, Ottawa's obviously not going to be a great team. But if you need a center, right? We talked how heavy centers are in hockey this season in fantasy. And if you pick up Shane Pinto, you have gotten off to a good start.
Yes, he's certainly provided. So if you took him late in drafts, which is where he was going, currently slated on that third line with Ottawa behind Cousins and Stützle down the middle. But listen, they're going to, I mean, and listen, last night against Buffalo, that was an unfortunate thing there where basically Buffalo, for all their efforts to try and not looking great the first couple of games, looking a little bit better against Colorado. We'll talk about that later. They finally get punched through and get their first win of the season. But yeah, Pinto's been off to a strong start. And again, will he maintain the pace? Probably not, but he could be a very reliable source, like a secondary source of scoring for your fantasy team moving forward. And the other guy that you wanted to bring up here, let's shift gears and go out to Anaheim. Beckett Seneca, who, strong start, 3 goals, 3 assists out of the gate here for Anaheim. Maybe they weren't expecting him to produce that strong right away out of the gate, but they're playing him right now, and he's, so far they're making him look good.
Yeah, I mean, you put him in a line with Mason McTavish, who was just freshly signed, and my last pick of this year's fantasy draft, Cutter Gauthier. And you got a solid second line there, and they've been scoring points. I've been getting goals with Cutter there, and it'd be wise to, if I had room right now, and not everyone was healthy, Beckett would be a part of this team right now.
That's another thing we can kind of dive into here is the beginning of the season, like, because we all experience it. You see a guy out there on waivers, like, oh, I want to add that guy. Then you're looking at your roster. It's like, yeah, but like, there's nobody here I want to cut yet. There's nobody I want to bail on yet, or nobody deserves to be cut. I found myself in that situation in the FSGA league. Anton Lundell off to a good start with the Florida Panthers there, and he's going, with Barkov out for the year. There's no reason to think his, pace is going to, go. There's no reason to think there's going to be a big dip in production from maybe the pace he's already at right now. Then I'm looking at my roster, and it's like, man, do I want to drop Besser? I mean, listen, I know, Vancouver's offense is not off to the strongest start, but there is a little bit of patience that's involved here with, maybe, seeing guys like a Seneca out there and like, oh, do I add him? And it's like, well, see who's expendable, who's off to a slow start that maybe like, okay, I didn't have high hopes for them. I took them because of good ADP at that point. And, there is, to me, like, I don't make any major cuts or changes at this point in the season. There is one that I did. We'll talk about later when we get to Stamkos, but
that's the thing too. It's we're only in week 2 of the hockey season, so there's only been about 3, 4. Some teams have played 5 games already, and to get rid of to jump the gun and get rid of players is probably not the best idea. When you're dealing with injuries, it's another story. Like you'll want to jump on these players. So this is more for like if you got injuries or something like that. But if you have a team, you're just starting out, you don't want to give up on some of these guys right off the bat.
We got Stayer Survival saying Verhaeghe is sucking right now. Yeah, I know. Listen, Florida's, the start's been good. Maybe, they're still trying to figure things out, I think, there, and figure out who's settling where. A lot of people overlooked Kreider, which we mentioned at the top of the show, at least another dress I've seen. Yeah, he basically fell off the face of the earth there. And that's a nice segue there to a guy I want to talk about, which is Leo Carlsson. 1 goal and 4 assists in 3 games so far for the Ducks. He's on, you mentioned that strong second line with McTavish, Cutter Gauthier, and Beckett Seneca. Carlson's between Kreider and on that top line there, along with Alex Killorn. Carlsson, to me, is going to be their version of an Andre Kopitar, where he's just like an anchor center for the franchise for the next 15 years. Trust him in all situations. It's his second year. He's already playing in that top line. They have him, on the top power play, centering the top power play unit. They don't have him on a penalty kill yet. That's fine. That'll come with time. But potential future Selke candidate, I think. But yeah, I think if I don't think Kreider's going to obviously maintain the pace he's scoring at, but Carlson's in the middle and Killorn and Kreider, they have good chemistry there. Yeah, I think Carlson can rack up assists for sure in a category league where he's already got a 1 goal for assist ratio there. That's something I'm looking at for sure.
Yeah, he's on the top line, as you mentioned, top power play unit. Those are the guys you really want to hone in on, are the guys that are going to get the most chances to get you points, right? Face-off wins because he's a center, assists. He'll get the goals. They'll come. How many shots on goals? He's already got 8 shots on goal already. So, these are categories. If you're in a category league, you want players like this who are top 2 lines in that power play unit and getting points in many ways that they can.
Comment section busy today. Glenn P checking in, agreed. Don't trade away Stud because he's off to a slow start, which is a nice segue into Marek's question. You guys getting trade requests in your league, which you entertain? I haven't got any requests yet, and I'm not unless it. Sometimes you might find that if you're really deep at one position in your draft, and you're like, oh, I could really use another a better bench defenseman, and you happen to see there's another team in the league like, oh, they happen to be deep at defense, and there's like a obvious, easy 1-for-1, we each prove where we want to improve thing. Those I'll entertain, but outside, I'm not making any hefty big swings off of like fast or slow starts either way. I'm not going to panic if a guy's off to a slow start. So with Stamkos, it might be a sign of more things to come. And I'm not going to, if a guy's off to a very strong start, I'm not, and it's not somebody that we expected that, I'm not going to rush out to add them, maybe on a speculative basis, but I'm not going to go out and try and acquire them either. Now, a guy that we were excited for coming into the season, and he is very, very off to a very good start, Marty Necas. And, when we talk about can this guys keep up the pace, listen, 3 goals and 5 assists in 4 games played. Of course, he's not going to have 8 points. He's not going to average 2 points a game. But that being said, I look back at what Mikko Rantanen did his last few seasons skating. And listen, I remember there was times where people were like, oh, Marty Necas isn't happy in Carolina. Well, you know what? Going and playing next to Nate McKinnon will bring sunshine on even the rainiest of days. So, yes, you look at what Rantanen did there, 105, 104 the last 2 seasons, 92 the season before that. And then he had 88, he had 64 by the time he got traded out of Colorado to Carolina. Yeah, I think Marty Necas is, you look at where he was. He was in Carolina. He had, what, a 70-point season once, which was like a 25, 50 kind of deal. He's on a line with McKinnon now. So I think he can maintain like a 40-plus assist pace, no problem. And with McKinnon feeding him the puck, yeah, I think Marty Necas, 80-plus points, absolutely. Maybe even over 90 this year for him.
Yeah, will we be talking about him next year, kind of, breaking that top 10, top 12, being a first rounder, kind of like how it was, McKinnon and Rantanen in the top of the first round? It's possible that we get to see this, and it's great to see Marty Necas, turn on the Jets here while he's with Colorado. He goes from one good team to another. So, I mean, there's no reason or no excuse for him not to play well, especially being on that top line with him and Terry Lehkonen.
And another point, back to the conversation we had before about not having knee-jerk reactions and overreacting and dealing guys state of survival. In a keeper league, you may be stuck with a bed yet. And sometimes, yeah, in a keeper league, you just have to be like with certain players. And I haven't put any thought to who would be on that. A Connor Bedard from last year, perfect example. You're not trading Bedard off of a sophomore slump. So you're going to hang on to a guy like that. And there's other guys like that too, where like they get the benefit of the doubt of one bad season. Talk Stamkos later, he may be losing that benefit of the doubt, but there, Marty Necas there on that top line for sure can maintain a strong pace.
Even in our chat, there was I mentioned telling you that someone was asking for some advice, and it was a trade. It was like Frank Nazar for Steven Stamkos and I think Jason Zucker. And I'm like, is this a keepers league? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're going to want to trade Frank Nazar at this time in a keepers league. Not for an old Steven Stamkos and Jason Zucker. Not for them.
No, that's somebody that's trying to fish for a sucker, and glad they came to us. And that's another thing too. You can email the show totalhockeynow@gmail.com, but you can also comment on check the comments. So like if it's a video that already aired, but like you got a question, Oh, and there, we'll check. We'll answer. You can see from our fantasy mock drafts, we went in and answered plenty of questions to help people out, and that's what we're here to do. We enjoy this. We enjoy that you spend your Thursday evenings or mornings if you're in Thailand. Friday mornings, I guess, but nonetheless, Thursday's a busy night for the NHL slate, and we're happy to be here with you. Now, we still got a few more of the fantasy fast starts to talk about. And listen, I want to talk about Jack Eichel. And listen, 4 goals and 5 assists. I knew Marner would have a positive impact on him, but man, like what a start. Marner's got 4 assists. I want to use this tomorrow to go into the betting world and the wagering world. 2 weeks ago, when we talked about Hart Trophy odds, Jack Eichel was 27-1. That is already cut in half to 14-1, essentially. So if you think this is the beginning of something that, if this is an MVP Hart Trophy campaign for Eichel, go out and make your bets now, because he's not. That's just going to keep going down. And Vegas hasn't really even. I don't even think they've played all that well yet either. And he's already producing. So that is, again, he's not going to have 9 points. What he's got here? He's got 9 points in 4 games. Again, that's over 2-point pace per game. I don't think he maintains that. But yeah, I'm starting to get a little more excited about a potential Hart Trophy campaign here for Jack Eichel. I know I said in the preview that him and Marner kind of split each other. Would split the vote to a degree because of Vegas, but not if he's playing like this.
I love seeing guys sign big deals and deliver right off the bat. Jack Eichel being one of them. You also have Kirill Kaprizov doing his thing here. Eichel, man, he's being that draft pick that we thought he would be, from the NHL draft early a couple of years ago, right? He's really finally healthy. He's found his home in Las Vegas. And now he's delivering. I think we talked about him and the MVP and all that stuff. And probably because he has Marner on the team and some other guys that it would be probably not going to be him. But if he continues at this pace, people might change their minds. And if you bet on him earlier on in the offseason, stick to that bet.
You have a little bit of breaking news here. You mentioned the Tkachuk brothers earlier. The Senators just tweeted out Brady Tkachuk just underwent successful surgery on his right thumb, and he's expected to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So that timeline has you looking basically at a late November, early December return. So around American Thanksgiving. By the way, happy belated Canadian Thanksgiving to any of our pals north of the border, including our pal Fuzzy Chris 91. We got a few more guys to get to here before we start to switch gears and look at tonight's slate here. Z William here with the Minnesota Wild, 1 goal and 4 assists in 4 games. And listen, this is a guy that we were excited about, in those like teenish rounds in the draft as like a 4th defenseman or a 5th defenseman, somebody, who is going to get an opportunity, kind of like Matthew Schaefer's off to a strong start with the Islanders. William was going a little bit before him. He's running the top power play. He's, yes, he's on a 3rd pairing, but he's got Zach Bogosian, so he can do what he wants to do in terms from an offensive perspective, knowing that he's got a strong stay-at-home guy like Bogo on his pairing. I don't think he keeps up the pace necessarily, but I do think he is a reliable fantasy defenseman contributor throughout here. I think he's in a very good situation there. They can afford to play. They can afford to shelter his minutes too, which is nice.
Yeah, and he's only going to be on that 3rd line for so long. He's on the first power play unit, as well as he's not on the penalty kill, but he's on the first power play unit. He's got 10 shots on goal already from defense on that 3rd line. I mean, if you're in a categories league and you're looking for a defenseman, obviously he'll give you those stats, but he's also going to take his shots, and he's done that here, and you'll get those categories if you pick him.
All right, and I appreciate the chat here. Like, buzzing today, just keeping us busy. They dropped the, they talk about MBV Brady out 6 to 8 weeks. Thanks. I didn't have time to put the topic bar up. If somebody's watching with the audio down for some reason, now they know Brady out 6 to 8 weeks. Ouch, according to Glenn. And yeah, listen, that's a little bit longer than maybe you want, but and maybe for Ottawa, it's going to be a bumpy time for them. But thumb is important. You can't mess around with that. You got to let that sit out when they can. We do have a trade question here in the chat from 3 little Frenchies there, cute little Frenchies there. Hey, guys, someone offered me Clayton Keller for Wyatt Johnson in a 12-team head-to-head points league with small hits, blocks, shots, power play points, and he has Dylan Gunther already. It depends on how deep your roster is, because if it's a shallow number of rosters, I don't love having the same having too many guys from the same team, especially both being at wing positions there, like Gunther and Keller, because then you get on a busy night. Sometimes you got to choose which one you want to play. Sometimes that burns you. Sometimes you pick the wrong guy. So if it's a deeper league, then I don't mind having guys from at the same position there. It's different when you could stack a center and a wing, like a Logan Cooley, let's say.
Well, again, this is what we talked about, right? This is jumping the gun a little bit too early because Clayton Keller's not off to the hottest of starts. But Johnston, who I had him last season, and he did not get off to a hot start either. And now this season, he's off to a hot start. He's got 9 shots on goal, 14 faceoff wins. He's got a hit. He's got 3 blocks, obviously 3 goals and 1 assist. And Keller right now is not even close to that. Both of these guys are young. Both of these guys could be eventually cornerstones of their teams. I would not jump on this trade just yet. I think it's because of the fact that Keller's not off to. We're only into 5 games this season. I would not just jump the gun on that trade just yet. But
I think that this falls into that category of, do you really, those are, like you said, those are some big names involved there. This is not a depth edition. This is two bigger names there. You don't want to overreact. And one of the things I look at with Keller not being off to a great start, look at what they've done. Utah's done offensively as a whole in their 4 games. 1-3, 1-3. The team as a whole is not really scoring right now. So I would hold off on that deal. Even though you're getting Keller, I wouldn't. Those are 2 big enough names. Those are both guys that went in the first, we'll say 5 rounds of most drafts. I'm holding off on that one right now.
And also look at the teams they're playing on. You're going to get, what you're getting from Dallas. Great offensive output from that team. Johnston's on the second line, top line on the power play. These are things you got to consider too, how much time he's going to be on the ice and get to be playing here, opposed to Keller, who may not be on the greatest of offenses in Utah. So there are things you have to look a little bit deeper into than just what the stats are within the first couple of games.
Now, another question from the chat here, Marek saying, when is Marner going to catch fire with goals? We'll see. I mean, at some point, if Eichel keeps lighting the lamp like that, you're going to have to focus on him, and maybe that opens. I mean, Marner's always been more of the pass first guy than the shoot first guy, but it'll be interesting to see how that kind of seesaws and that dynamic goes. Now, speaking of Marner, the guy that's, replacing his spot alongside Austin Matthews is Matthew Nyes. Nyes off to 1 goal and 5 assists in 4 games. Now, listen, he's not the same play. He plays a heavier game than Mitch Marner. Let's be clear. They're not the same player in that regard. But in terms of him having a heavy assist total like Marner had next to Matthews, sure, that can absolutely stay at it. I'm not going to say at the same pace, but maybe he can, chase it and keep it close to in that regard. So yeah, I'm buying Matthew Nyes being an assist machine at this point.
Yeah, another you throw him with Austin Matthews, like you said, and that's, and that points are going to be scored at some point, right? The goals will come. Obviously, the assists will always be there. He's on the top power play. He was a guy that a lot of people were looking into last year as well, when he was coming up. So this has been in the works since last season, and some guy that is finally going to get his chance to be that top line guy alongside, a first round all-star in Austin Matthews.
And yeah, listen, I know that right wing spot right now is kind of like a musical chair spot in Toronto till they can figure out how that's going to go. But I mean, Matthews and Nyes are handcuffed to each other on that top line for the foreseeable future. And anytime I can have a player that's attached to a guy like Matthews, I'm going to have confidence that rate of production is going to stay pretty consistent in a good way. Last guy for fast starts, Alexei Protas with the Capitals there, is leading the team in scoring, 3 goals, 2 assists there. Washington, him and Connor McMichael are the guys that, are expected to take those big steps coming up right now. He's playing on a line with him. He's the second line with the Caps. I think as far as Washington's concerned, their offense is coming from those top 2 lines, and maybe it's the third line gets a little going with LaPierre and Leonard. Yeah, those are going to be the top. And if he's the guy that's had that pedigree, that he's progressing along and he's been following along that right path, he's still there. Yeah, I'm okay with him here.
This is a guy that's going to get you offensive categories as well as defensive categories because he's on the top penalty kill. He's also quarterbacking the power play for that second unit. So you're going to get the best that you can. Already off to 3 goals, 2 assists from that Washington offense there. That's another guy you got to, even if you don't pick him up now, you put him on your watch list, you hold on and you see if he can continue with the production that he's doing. Because as we said, we're only 4 or 5 games into the season. We'll see how it pans out moving forward.
Now, we talked about a bunch of fast starts, and yeah, we don't want to overreact to a fast, because again, we're only talking about a handful of games for most of these teams. We don't want to overreact to slow starts either, but Steven Stamkos is off to another slow start. 1 assist in 4 games. When you look at his game log from 2024-25, also had a very slow start to the season. Last year, only had 1 goal and 2 assists the entire month of October. Then, November he had 10 points. December, 10 points. January, 10 points. Then February cooled off. March picked it up again. April was solid. So it's another slow start. So he's got the triple position eligibility in Yahoo leagues. I ended up cutting him this week in one league because it's one of those leagues where, like, okay, if that burns me, there's other guy. It's a shallow league, so I can get away with it. But it is concerning that he's off to another slow start. Last year there was so many new faces in Nashville. That takes time to get guys going. Right? You're not going to make that many changes in the lineup, and they're going to come out of the gate nice and strong. But again, I don't know what he had it's just, to me, it's a little worrisome because of the way he played in Tampa Bay all those years. He was a guy. This is the same guy that took a puck off the face in what was it, Game 7 of the 2011 Eastern Conference Finals. Came back out on the ice later in the game. We're talking about that guy. That he's a gamer, but that will wear and tear on you. And we thought that was going to be the case with Joe Pavelski when the Sharks said, no, we're not going to re-sign you. Then he went to Dallas and ended up having another 3 years of being a strong power play presence and a guy that was he's still a tip machine. I don't know. I am concerned about Stamkos' slow start here again.
I feel like Steven Stamkos has been playing forever. I mean, what are we at? I think he's like 35, 36 right now. This is a guy where you are going to have to eventually sell, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. You didn't waste any time, Adam, because you already saw from last season that he's starting to slow down, and this is a guy that you want to be able to, move on from. And I mentioned that trade earlier. If in a keepers league, they're offering you Steven Stamkos at this point in his career for a young kid that really still hasn't been proven yet in a keepers league, that tells you right there that something is not right with Steven Stamkos. Now, I know he had over 396 faceoff wins last season and 174 shots on goal. So, I mean, the stats can still be there for him, but I don't know. I've kind of faded on all of Nashville. Even like UC Soros and Roman Yossi, I just kind of stayed away from. There's some teams that I've stayed away from. Nashville's one of them.
Now, Marek asking if he's dealing with an injury, not to my knowledge. There's always that possibility that he is dealing with a nagging injury that they're not reporting, or it's not severe enough to put it on the injury report. Yeah. But it is hampering him. But I don't know if that's the case. Glenn, also a guy who faded all Nashville players, just like Ant. State of survival. He's not even winning a lot of faceoffs. Stamkos fell off the face of the earth. Yeah, he if this pattern continues, then yeah, he did fall off the face of the earth real quick, and Tampa knew exactly what they were doing. I didn't fade all Nashville. I didn't go out of my way to take Nashville players by any means. There's a couple of like Saros as a goalie too, and Yossi as a guy like, okay, as I missed out on like all the good D1s, then still be a D1. The workload he gets. But yeah, he's not. Look at his career stats, just over the last few years. So 27 and 26. So he did get it going to a degree in the middle part of the season.
And that's on a terrible Nashville team.
That was on a bad Nashville team. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was still approaching 30-30, even played all 82 games. So he was healthy last year. 40-40 the year before that. I mean, at this point, if they get 25-25 at him, I mean, maybe that's what he is at this point. State of survival, I think he can elevate on a different team. John Trader S is 1 year younger than I am, considering to be similar level top players. John Tavares, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think Tavares is he's obviously in a better situation in Toronto than Nashville. So, you put Stamkos on a team that's, playing towards the top, expected to play towards the top of the division. And maybe we're having a different conversation here. Maybe just everything March or so played all right for them last year. But yeah, we all fell in love with those upgrades they made, but it's not panning
I
out.
sure did. I sure did. Look, with Stamkos too, with him getting up there in age, he still has the skill set, right? You mentioned the points he had last season, but is it better for Nashville to limit his time on the ice to get the most out of him? And maybe that works for Nashville, but in a fantasy team and fantasy perspective, that doesn't work for you because you're not getting the most time out of him to deliver points for you. So maybe that's something to consider as well.
I wish I could tell you the league and the player I dropped Stamkos for, but I'm in 7 leagues and they all kind of bleed together at a certain point. So if I can recall, it might have been in the group group that I text about that. I don't know. I can't remember. I can't look it up and host at the same time. Nonetheless, but in one league I've already cut bait with, even with the triple position eligibility. It's just, that's one guy that that's, we talked before about not having knee-jerk reactions in fantasy, but if a guy did something last year and then, okay, fine, he picked it up a little bit later, but if there's a guy out there that is sitting on the waiver wire that you're like, you know what, I think that guy's going to keep it up, Stamkos is an expendable guy to me.
Well, you dropped him for one of the guys you mentioned earlier, Leo Carlsson.
That's what it was. Okay, it was this league. It was Leo Carlsson for that. I was almost positive. And that's why Leo Carlsson, he's going to get me faceoffs. He's playing a lot better, and he's just right now in a better situation. Anaheim out of the gate looks like they're an okay team. I'm not going to call them a good team. They look like an okay team out of the gate. We'll see. We'll get a test tonight against Carolina at home. Talk about that in a minute. But any final thoughts on Stamkos, or you think we should get to our Thursday pucking preview here?
I think we said all we can about Stamkos. It's just the guy that he's in the twilight of his career, and you honestly should, if you want to win your league, if he's one of your favorite players, you're going to have to come to terms with most likely fading him at this point. And if he gets hot during the season, there's injuries and stuff like that, you can pick him right back up again. I don't think he's going to just go to all these, he's just going to get picked up by all these fantasy teams.
And that's the thing. If he's not showing any sort of, he might, if you want to pick him back up again, you just keep an eye on him. And if you see, he had a goal last night, he had 2 assists the next night, okay, there's a spot for him. Now maybe you grab him back up again.
That's all.
Later Stammer. Glenn P is out on him. That seems to be the vibe on the show. If anybody's got an argument to make for keeping Stamkos, we'd love to hear it. In the comments, email the show, totalhockeynow@gmail.com. But we talk fantasy. The other reason we're here is to give you picks on a Thursday. So let's not waste any more time as it's 5:40 p.m. Eastern time. Yes, it is, folks. An 11-game slate tonight for the NHL here. We're excited to run the board, and I think there's only 1 or 2 games that we don't have at least one play for between the two of us. So excited to we'll get through that right now here. First up, Rangers at Maple Leafs, 7 o'clock Eastern puck drop here. Rangers' inability to score at home has been well documented at this point. But on the road, what they have? They had 4 and 5. So
6. 4 and 6. Yeah.
So listen, I'm on the over tonight, and I understand it's Shesterkin. I understand it's Stolarz. I don't know if you're going to ask me why the Rangers have not been able to score at home. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe they're all just gripping the sticks too tight. I've heard about goalies specifically talk about the lighting sometimes is a little off in Madison Square Garden, which if you were a road team that couldn't score there, maybe that would make sense. But this is where you play. So I don't know why they can't score at home. Maybe it'll all just come in one shot, and then when they come back, they'll have an 8-goal outburst. I don't know, but just with the Rangers and the Leafs tonight, you and I are in agreement here. We both the overs dropped, the totals dropped to 5.5 and 6 in some spots. I liked it at 6.5. So do you?
I do. Whether 6.5 or 5.5, like we mentioned, yes, the Rangers haven't scored at home, but they have scored on the road. And through the first 4 games of the season, the total goals in Maple Leafs games have not been under 5. So, and that was the Red Wings that beat them 3-2. Everything else has been above that, and I feel like we're going to get a nice scoring game here, no matter who's in net. So I feel like this is going to be a fun game to watch.
And let's face it, both lineups do have firepower, so it's not crazy to think that, even with the good goaltending matchup, that they can't put the puck in the net. Now, we should recap our picks from last week before we get too deep here. I actually went 6-2 last week. That was a strong Thursday for me. Ant went 3-2. Our pal at Fuzzy Chris 91, maybe that's the reason he's not here this week. But that guy gives out great stuff over our Fantasy Alarms NHL page as well, along with Josh Wagner. So check out his picks over there. So Ant and I, right off the bat here, we're both on the over at 6.5 here. For the reason he mentioned too, Toronto's been putting the puck in the net. They have had no problems doing that so far this year. So again, I could see this one turning into a track meet. So there we go. A little Rangers Leafs, a little original 6 matchup in Toronto tonight. Predators Canadians, 7:00 Eastern time there. Looking at the goaltending matchup here, it's going to be UC Saros versus Jacob Dobis. So we're getting the backup here for the Canadians tonight. Looking on the money line here for the the Nashville Predators. They are looking at a plus 124, 125 in that range. Canadians minus 145 home favorites here. I don't have a play on this game. Knee-jerk reaction, I was initially looking at over, but I don't have a good enough read on either of these teams right now to make a play and give it out.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from this one. Like I said, I'm kind of staying away from everything Nashville right at this moment in time. I know UC Saros is in net, but with Dobis going for Montreal, I don't know. I just couldn't get a good feel for this one, so I've kind of stayed away from putting anything down on this one.
And here's the thing. That's the thing. When you have an 11 game slate, we're not gonna have picks for every game. You're not gonna. It's just you want to make the ones that make sense. And sometimes you don't have a good feeling about a game, staying away. And it is a stay away spot. Irish King 97 checking in. The Rangers 2-0 on the road, so maybe that bodes well for them. Glenn P saying the Rangers are a mess. Leafs win. I don't know who wins that game. Gun to my head, I would probably lean Toronto right now. But yeah, the total's where it's at for both of us. Eric saying, did you see Demidov's goal? Amazing. Yeah, sure was. I mean, listen, there's a reason why Chris was like grabbing him like as early as the 10th, 11th rounds in drafts, because A, he's a little obsessed with them. But 2, this is the the Calder Rookie of the Year favorite right here. There's a reason for that. He was a heavy favorite over the everybody else. So yeah, he's gonna in a market like Montreal, we're gonna see a lot of Demidov if he keeps up his end of the bargain and keeps performing there. So no real play on Predators Kraken. For Predators Canadians, but Kraken Senators at 7:00 Eastern tonight. We got Philip Grubauer going against Linus Ullmark here. And yeah, I know it's Grubauer and not the Cord, but there weren't a lot of high expectations for the Kraken this year, but they've looked good out of the gate right now. They've played each and every way. They beat the Ducks in their home opener, took care of the Vegas Golden Knights. And then, yeah, fine. They lost to the Canadians, but they showed they can go up and down the ice with Montreal and play and hang in a high scoring affair here. So you get an Ottawa off a back-to-back, and yeah, they're probably licking their wounds. They're probably looking to, a little angry after the showing against Buffalo last night. But the Kraken, at least out of the gate, are a team to me that I'm gonna ride them until they give me a reason to not ride them. So yeah, it is Grubauer, but plus 130 money line on the road. Give me that with Seattle. Ottawa, after the way they looked last night, they haven't looked great this year. No Brady Tkachuk, of course, now. Give me the Kraken on the road.
Yeah, we both came into this season not feeling either of these teams. We're right. We're definitely right on the Senators right now. But the Kraken have got off to a pretty good start. They got points in all 3 games that they've played, which is huge, especially in the division that they play for. You're going to need every single point you can get. I think the Kraken do win this game. But like I said, I am not going to be putting anything on this one. Not a good enough matchup for me to feel for.
State of Survival checking in. They have not signed Carter Hart. Yes, they haven't. They've signed him to a tryout, but that can turn into a contract. He's got a foot in the building, and they're going to give him. And with everything that's all the baggage attached to him, they wouldn't be giving him a look if they didn't think they were going to sign him. It's not worth the baggage to bring a guy in. No, let's just take a look at him and see. No, if they have to have big plans for this guy. If they're bringing him in the building, And let's face it, like Aiden Hill's fine. Kira Schmid starting tonight for Vegas, by the way. So we'll see what happens. But again, he's not going to be setting foot on the ice for the Golden Knights until December 1st, I think I saw, if he does play. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Now, Panthers, Devils home opener tonight, by the way. We'll see. Ant won't be in the building tonight. I'm sure you'll be at a Devils game soon. I don't have a play on this one, but you've got a total with Tony Rivers here. Let's go.
Yeah, I took the under 6.5 goals here. Jake Allen's going to be in net for the Devils, and he's been pretty good for this team since coming over last season. I like what I've seen from him. I don't know how the Panthers, they've lost their last 2 games in a row so far. I think this is going to be a more maybe like 3-2 type game. Devils are going to come in high off of it. And I can't believe they've been on the road for the first 3 games of the season, haven't had a home game yet. And here we are. But I think this is going to be on the lower scoring end of the night. And Jake Allen and the Devils are going to want to play it out for their fan base. So I'll take the under 6.5.
Now, it's 6.5. It's down to 6 and even 5.5 in some spots. So that also tells you that Ant's got the right read there. If he under 6.5 and it's going down, then yeah, that's the way to play that there. Now, Glenn also checking in from Thailand. He's talking about Arseny Gritsyuk, rookie of the year, before grab it before the odds go higher. I wish I could. He's the second person to say that. At Mr. Jared Moore, who I do rip and riff with, also said that. And just looking right now, he's 30-1 at DraftKings for the Calder Trophy. So if you like that play, then go out and get it.
We didn't have enough time to go over him during our odds when we were doing it in the off season. But I was looking at the lines he was playing on with the top line guys, and I was thinking, you know what, this could be a good play at the price point he was at. So just like Glenn is saying, like if you played it then, good, I would put some money on it now as well, as Glenn P is pointing out.
Yeah, I mean, and then just to go back to a guy we talked about in Fantasy Focus, Beckett Seneca, 16-1 right now. So if you think he's going to have a strong year in Anaheim and can play his way into the conversation, I mean, right now, Demidov and Schaefer are your 2 favorites, plus 275, plus 400, respectively. Then it's Jimmy Snuggerud at plus 700 to round out the top 3 there. So Ants likes the under on Panthers Devils tonight and the New Jersey home opener. We'll see how that goes. Shift gears down I-95. Let's talk a little Jets Flyers. Jets are road favorites on the money line, minus 135. You're looking at the total in this game right now. It's Ant got it, I believe, at 5.5. I like the money line in this game. Winnipeg has looked better each game. They lost that, back and forth affair with Dallas, but each game they've been playing better. I know Philly's played tough too out of the gate. They had that, wild one against Carolina. They beat the Panthers. They lost, Florida to open their year 2 in a close one. So I just think this is not a great matchup. And anytime I can take Hellebuck on the road and get him at a playable value at minus 135, there's still some value there. It's just a straight money line favorite. Yes, I could look at regulation plus 115, but I think Philly's been playing well enough that I don't want to have this go home in regulation. I do think Winnipeg takes the game, even if Philly walks them right through to a shootout.
I have the over 5.5 goals here. Last 2 games for the Flyers went to both 7 goals. And you're talking about a Winnipeg Jets team that can score goals. The Flyers will probably score a couple as well. I know it's Hellebuck here, but he hasn't had the greatest starts to the season. He usually heats up later on in the season. I'm going to take the over here for 5.5.
We got a little bit of a disagreement here in the chat on the last game, Panthers Devils. We got Glenn P saying Jake Allen's been great. Irish King 97. Jake Allen will get lit up. Which is it going to be, folks? Side or the other? You got to pick one.
Well, I'll say this because I know Jake Allen is upset over what happened in the last game. He was starting the last game and then had to leave due to cramps, and now we lost Markstrom because he had to come in and play, and now Markstrom's out for a couple of weeks. So
yeah, it'll be the debut of Allen this season. And listen, we talked about this, in a lot of the mock drafts and previews. Like, listen, the Devils are not going to. Markstrom needs a night, or it would be beneficial to give him an extra. They're not going to rush him back. They're not going to do any of that stuff with him. So Allen, if you own Markstrom, Allen's a handcuff you should have until he plays his way out of handcuff status.
Yeah, and fantasy perspective wise, I know I think Chris already jumped on Jake Allen, but if you need someone to put on your watch list, Nico Dawes is going to be up for a while. So if you need a goalie, you're dealing with injuries, maybe throw a little shade at Nico Dawes.
Yeah, I mean, he's the next guy up from Utica, right? So,
Yep.
see. So we've gone through a few games here. This is the other game where there's no official play from either of us. Avalanche at Blue Jackets. The money line's too juiced. If you think Colorado's going to win, I'd seen it up at -165, -170. In this game, I initially leaned like, okay, fine, I could still get the Avalanche win to win in regulation. I think it was like -105, -110. I don't know. I can make an argument for Columbus being, taking advantage of a home underdog here. Two losses they had were by one goal. They spanked Minnesota 7-4. They really, surprised me with the way they played Minnesota that second game of the year. And when Colorado played Buffalo on Monday, and maybe it was due to the weird puck drop time in the afternoon on the East Coast, which for Mountain Zone time players is late morning. Yes, they won the game, and there was no doubt that they were going to win it, but Buffalo hung with them. Buffalo had their opportunities. Buffalo had their windows where it was like, oh, they're going to get back in this game. They're going to make so maybe that's, there's a little bit of an opportunity to take the Blue Jackets as a home underdog on the money line. But I again, my knee jerk reaction was Avalanche win regulation, and then I started thinking about it. In those spots, I stay away.
3 in their first game, they lost to the Predators 2-1. The Blue Jackets, then they beat the Wild 7-4. They lost to the Devils 3-2 here. I think that the Avalanche are going to, continue to win here and take.
We're losing Anthony here for a minute. We'll get him back online. Get him back here soon. But nonetheless, yeah. So Avalanche, Blue Jackets are stay away so far. Let's recap. We're already halfway through the slate here, so why don't we just recap what we've got? So looking at the Rangers Leafs game at 7:00. We both like the over 6.5, even though that's come down to 6 or 5.5 in some spots. Both think there's going to be a little bit of a high scoring affair there tonight in Toronto. No plays from the Predators Canadiens game. My gut lean would be over the total, but I'm not going to get there. Then Kraken Senators. I like the Kraken as road underdogs there. Plus money, plus 130 on the money line. I know it's Grubauer and I know it's Olmark, but again, I don't like the way Ottawa's playing right now. Then we look forward at the Panthers and the Devils. Ant's got the under 6.5, which is smart since it's down to 6 and 5.5 in a lot of spots. Jets Flyers. He's got the over 5.5. I'm taking the Jets on the money line, minus 135. And we just discussed Avalanche Blue Jackets. And let's get Ant back in the mix here. We now go to the NHL. And I understand maybe they caught on finally that we all caught on that, the 7th, when you have a puck drop on the 30 of an hour, you can just not have to watch intermission and go back and forth. Only one game on the 30 of an hour tonight. That's Oilers Islanders. I'm sure it has something to do with it being the ESPN Plus game at night or whatever it is. But looking at the goaltending matchup here for the Islanders and the Oilers, it's going to be David Riddick for the Islanders tonight, and I like that move. Maybe it's not Sorokin's fault that they're off to an 0-3 start, but Vladar, he knows them well. David Riddick, I get those guys mixed up sometimes. He knows them well from his days with Calgary, so he at least had, whatever edge you can get against the Oilers, go for it. We'll see if Skinner or Pickard is the guy tonight. I'll take the Oilers to win in regulation. I think you'll get a strong effort out of the Islanders to try and get their first win. Maybe State of Survival has something to say about that. But yeah, Edmonton's played strong defense ever since they had that when they let Calgary back into the game in their first game of the season. They've really clamped down, and I see the same thing happening tonight with the Islanders. I don't want to say the puck line. I don't want to say money line's too juice, but minus 105 regulation. I'll take that with Edmonton right now.
3 goals, 2 goals. That's what the Oilers have done so far this season. So I'm expecting a big game against the winless Islanders here. I think always strong suit is to take the over on the Edmonton Oilers. So I'm taking the over 6.5 here. They'll definitely score goals here, and with whoever is in net for the Oilers, you can expect the Islanders to throw some shots their way, and I expect some to go in. So I'll take the over 6.5.
All right. So Islanders fan state of survival is okay with the loss, 4 steps closer to McKenna. So hey, that tells you the state of the Islander fan base. They're already thinking about Penn State's Mike McKenna. We're at October 16th, according to the calendar. Red light Riddick for Irish King 97. And yeah, maybe that's what's gonna happen tonight. But when you're
As I
trying to
hope.
get a win, and you got a guy that played in the same division as them, like let's try it. But yeah, I agree. Red light Riddick. We'll see if the Oilers can get that home tonight with the regulation win for me. And Ant's got the over 6.5 there. 4 games to go on this slate here on this Thursday, October 16th, an 11 gamer. Total Hockey Now. Thanks for watching, whether it's live or whether you're catching us later on Total Hockey Now's YouTube channel. So as you can follow us on Twitter at Pucking Thoughts, at Ant Rivera 86, and our line mate who's not here tonight at Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Merez. Hope you're he's got it. Let's see, it's about 6 o'clock Eastern time. He's got to be what, like appetizers coming out right now, maybe. I don't know.
Tendies? The tendies are coming out, or
Maybe. He said it was a high class affair. I don't know if a high class dining establishment's going to serve tendies as an appetizer. Maybe they call them something else to kind of fancify them. But we'll see. So those are all the early puck drops here. One other early, we'll say 8 o'clock Eastern, before we get to the nightcaps here. Canucks at Stars, 8 o'clock. This is one of the games that we've gone opposite on here. It opened at 5.5 and has gone up to 6.5. It opened at -115 over 5.5. I think this is going to be an under game. So the fact that it's gone up to 6.5, I'll gladly take that and play the under, even if it's, I'll pay a little extra to have that half a goal versus the 6. But I think Demko, and yeah, I know it's Casey DeSmith tonight, and Dallas has had no problem putting in the puck in the net out of the gate, but I don't know, just something about this. The same way I had the feeling about Dallas, Winnipeg last week. Well, everything points to that game being an under. The last 4 went under against them. Great goaltenders, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, I'm going over. It's just one of those gut feelings, and it worked out. It was a 5-4 affair. I have the opposite feeling tonight with Canucks Stars. I think this is going under, and I like the matchup here to be a lower scoring game.
I took the over 5.5 for this game. The Canucks have not 2 out of the 3 games the Canucks have played so far have been over that. And the Stars have scored 5 goals in every game so far this season. So I think that, to me, right there tells you, at the very least, you'll reach, if it's not the Stars doing it themselves, both as the total goals, you'll get over 5.5. So I went over 5.5 for this game, with the Stars coming out on top and staying undefeated.
Ant's using the mathematical logic there. I'm using the gut logic. We'll see which one wins out based on this is the only one that we differ on tonight here. So there we go. So those are all the early games. Those are the 8 earlier slate games, and then we've got 3 West Coast affairs here. Let's start in Nevada here between the Bruins and the Golden Knights. Starting goalies for this one are going to be Jeremy Swayman and Akira Schmid for the Golden Knights. You're looking on the money line here. The Bruins are +195 on the road. Vegas -238. Totals 5.5. You're thinking about a puck line play. Vegas -1.5 +114. And if you think Boston can keep it close, you don't always get these plus puck and a half bets that make sense to play. They're usually too juiced. -135. So for some reason you think the Bruins can keep it close, that might be something to consider. What do you have for tonight?
I have the over 6.5 total goals here. I think that the Bruins have not scored less than 3 goals in a game. You got the Golden Knights here who can score goals at will. So I think we're going to have a high scoring affair here, no matter who's in net. And how about the Bruins? They must be listening to Total Hockey Now and hearing all the slander from one Christopher Moraes, because they're off to a good start.
I'm guilty of it too. I said they were a top line team and nothing else. And here they are just coming out of the gate playing like a well-rounded hockey team. So this is one of the 2 games that opened up that a 6.5 total that's now down to a 5.5. The other one we mentioned earlier was the Panthers and the Devils. Dallas Vancouver was the opposite, opened 5.5, now is up to 6.5 in most spots. So Ant's got he likes the over there at 6.5 for the Golden Knights. I mean, now that it's down to 5.5, if you want to go a little bit safer, you certainly can do that. You won't make as much money, but hey, at over, if you take the over 6 at -110, then you have the push there as well. So there's the Bruins and Knights there. Both goalies haven't won yet. This is the best game of the night. So we'll see how that goes. He's thinking OT. Not sure which game he's talking about there. Melatonin dreams. You wish you had a personality. That's the first time somebody's ever accused me of not having a. Okay. Let's got 2 more games to go here. We got the Hurricanes at the Ducks. Now, Carolina, one of the last unbeaten teams in the NHL, had no problem with the Sharks the other night. Gave that Hurricanes puck line pick over at wizardsportspicks.com the other day, and that was like last call at -135. That's how you knew when the night before the puck line was already at -135. But they're going to get a little bit of a tougher test out of the Ducks tonight. We talked about the way that Anaheim's played out of the gate so far. You got a lean on this total here. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm taking over 6.5. I think this is going to be a fun game. This might be my game of the night. The Hurricanes are coming in undefeated here against a young upstart Anaheim team, which I think this is slowly becoming my West Coast team now. So I really like this matchup to go over 6.5 for both of these teams to score total goals.
Opened 5.5. Now it's 6.5 pretty much everywhere. So people thinking there's going to be offense tonight. Looking at the starting goaltending matchup here. Let's see what's been posted here. And Lucas Dostal going for the Ducks. Nothing announced for Carolina yet. Considering they played their young backup the other night, I would assume Freddie Anderson's getting the go tonight. We'll see. So there, one on in Orange County, 10 o'clock Eastern, puck drop there tonight. If you're looking for a lean on this on a side, I like the way Anaheim is played out of the gate, but Carolina looks really good right now. So I don't know if I can. If you want to take a look at maybe looking at regulation play here for Carolina and that one, what's the win 60 total here? Pull that up on the screen. But it's -120. So if you think the Hurricanes pull it out in regulation, I'm staying away from that one. But like you said, I think that's going to be one of the more fun games to watch tonight. Now, one more game to go. Penguins at Kings, 10 o'clock puck drop here. Looking at the starting goaltending matchup tonight. You got Anton Forsberg is going to be in the crease for the Kings versus Archer Shilovs there. Who's going to get the start for Pittsburgh here. I initially had no play on this game, but the way Shilovs has looked out of the gate, Pittsburgh is playing better than expected. I know the Kings are playing okay. I'm fading Forsberg here. The Penguins are plus 170 on the money line. I can't believe Pittsburgh. And listen, they're 2-2, but they've played pretty well in the games they've won. This could be one where I have egg on my face and the Kings, backhand them out of the building. But Shilovs is in net. I don't know. There's just something about the Penguins right now. It's a limited sample size, but based on the way he played in Vancouver, and maybe they actually have some faith in him, which they don't. Nobody would have in Tristan Jarry at this point. I'll take a shot there with that heavy of a road underdog. Why not? Something to keep it interesting late.
Yeah, I think these two teams are going to beat the crap out of each other. So I took the over 6.5 here. I don't trust either goalie in net. I know Shilov's had off to the good start, but he also gave up 6 goals in a game already. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's spread out evenly to make the total over 6.5.
Now, going back to that Columbus game we discussed earlier, Verzlikins is going tonight for Columbus. So maybe that gives you a little bit of a, if you're thinking about the over, and maybe that, that Avalanche win 60 instinct maybe is a good way to go. But again, not going to do anything official there. Let's see. We got the brother of one of us guys here. Hey, guys, sorry I'm late. Long day at work. I'll have to rewatch the show. Hope I didn't miss anything good. Irish King, no Kopitar. Forsberg is poop. Yeah, Pittsburgh money line. Yeah. Irish King 97 and I right on that one. Fade Forsberg.
My brother might have to watch this portion of the show first and then get into the fantasy perspective, because I'm sure as we get to game time, those bets are gonna change a little bit.
Yep, we got 45. What we got? About 55 minutes here till anthems kick off and puck drop's not that far away. But hey, we ran the slate today. We gave you some good fantasy content. We talked about Steven Stamkos, and some people in the chat agree. Probably definitely in the back 9, but he might be in the back 3 at this point. Now, we like to always make sure we get our love in for the other things we do around here. I mentioned earlier at Rip and Riff, we took the week off. At Mr. Jared Moore had some automobile issues he had to deal with on Monday. We weren't able to get another recording in, but we'll be back with you next Monday. We'll rip some football, hockey, baseball cards. We'll talk about the week that was in the NFL and all that good stuff. At Fuzzy Chris 91, not here today. At Slapshot Podcast, go check that most recent episode that dropped Tuesday. You can also get his picks over at fantasyalarm.com. And finally, the Subway to Shea podcast, still in hiatus, correct?
Yes, we will return live once the World Series wraps up. Whatever team is, wins the World Series, we'll come back after that. But there are I got shorts and stuff coming out and video clips here, so there's not going to be no content at all. Just the live portion returns once the World Series is over.
And like I mentioned earlier, over at wizardsportspicks.com, where I at least have one NHL pickup every day, and I throw out a couple of free plays a week too on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But that's going to do it for this edition of Total Hockey Now. Unfortunately, no music to carry us out because that portion of the StreamYard screen has frozen. So we're just going to get out of here and say thanks for watching at Total Hockey Now. We love the subscribers. Please comment, ask your questions, check in, all that good stuff. But for at Ant Rivera 86, I'm at Pucking Thoughts Adam Bernard. Back with you next Thursday. All new episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel.